And next, Senator Lummis. Thank you for your patience.
No,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
joining us.
Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Welcome, Ms. Fox. Senator Kramer and I, before he walked out of the room, were talking about how grateful we are that we don't have nearly the PFAS issues identified that Senator Whitehouse just mentioned exist in his state. And I think it's a perfect example of why federalism works so well. According to the Environmental Council of the states, states have assumed more than 96% of the delegable authorities under federal environmental laws. And so concerning PFAS, there's no reason states can't or shouldn't lead on research and regulation. Senator Whitehouse just mentioned that his state certainly is doing so and has identified many issues in his state that do need to be addressed. So in this area and a lot of areas at EPA, working with the states, the concepts of federalism seem to be the best path, the workable path going forward. So I just want to implore EPA to see the states as partners and work with them and to accept their leadership in a lot of areas where they're well positioned to lead. I too, like Senator Kramer, want to raise the issue of the Navigable Waters Protection Rule while we're here, because that is the more concerning issue in my state, as it is in his state of North Dakota, than quite frankly the PFAS issue is. And so one of my concerns about it is the amount of delay we've seen coming from the Agency on Oversight requests for information on the repeal and replacement of the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. For example, it took the agency 9 weeks to provide this committee with a briefing on the rationale underlying the agency's decision to take these actions. And, you know, that delay causes states like mine a real heartburn. And we're concerned about transparency that we think is not evident with regard to the times involved in this. So I just want to alert you that we have great concerns about the replacement of the Navigable Waters Protection Rule, and we very much want as much information as we can get. Now, do you agree that 9 weeks is too long for this committee to wait for a briefing on this issue?
So, Senator, thank you for sharing your concerns around delays in responding to oversight requests. I am happy. I don't manage that for the EPA, and so you have my commitment that I will take that concern back to Administrator Regan and to those at EPA who manage that, and see if we can't, act more quickly. Of course, we have so many things we're juggling. But we will be more mindful of that moving forward. And I just also wanted to appreciate your comments about letting the states lead and really partnering with them so that we get these regulations right. I could not agree with you more. And I would say that, it really is the obligation of the EPA to protect public health and safeguard the environment by establishing federal floors for things. And, so much of what we're trying to do with this roadmap is to establish that federal floor of protection for people who have been suffering far too long from PFAS contamination. And we fully expect that other states will go farther than us, and they should lead, and we will learn from them. And it will, I think, be a very virtuous cycle of partnership between states and the federal government moving forward.
Well, thank you. I think the illustration of the big differences between states in dealing with this issue and having it be an issue for each of us would argue for having the states take a strong leadership position and then ask for assistance from the EPA when necessary. And certainly in a lot of areas, the EPA is well equipped to help the states fulfill their roles in this area as well. I want to return, and I know this isn't your area, but I hope that you will take back with you Wyoming's concern about changing the navigable waters protection rule. On a briefing call, staff stated that there actually have been no observed and documented significant environmental damage or ongoing environmental harm stemming from the implementation of the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. And because of that, we don't even understand why you want to change it, why the agency wants to change it. It seems to be working well, and we have concern that we're going to be taking a step backwards with regard to changes with those rules. So are you aware of any significant environmental damage or ongoing environmental harm stemming from the current implementation of the Navigable Waters Protection Rule that's been observed either by EPA or the Army Corps of Engineers?
So, Senator, the Navigable Waters Protection Rule is no longer the definition of waters of the United States. It was vacated by 2 district courts, and so we are currently implementing the regulatory regime pre-2015. So courts have found that the navigable had significant concerns, and that's why they took that action.
Did they take the concern because of they felt that it was inadequately implemented under the rulemaking authority, or because the rule was inadequately actually protective of waters? Do you know which it was? Was it procedural or was it substantive?
So I would be happy to have our Office of General Counsel brief you more fully on those 2 court decisions, if that would be of interest to you, Senator.
It absolutely would, and I very much appreciate the offer, and I'll take you up on that.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really appreciate it.
You bet.